We'll get back to the football conversation now with our good friend Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, kind enough to join us this morning. Jim, what's up? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back on in Nashville. I love it.
Absolutely. And Jim, you guys have put out the Senior Bowl 75th anniversary team in partnership with the NFLPA. This lineup is unbelievable. You got 19 Pro Football Hall of Famers, 8 NFL MVPs, Kevin Mawai, Steve Hutchinson, the guys with Titans ties in there. I mean, this is an unbelievable list. And as you guys put this together, what kind of stood out the most about this collection of players, Jim?
Man, what stood out the most? Just how great this game has been for a long, long time. I've only been here 6 years. I've been coming to the Senior Bowl in a scouting capacity for 25 years. I think this will be my 25th year coming to the game. But no, just the overall greatness of what this game is, and the history of our game means everything to us. So to have a 75th year like this to really celebrate that, our history and honor these great players first and foremost. Is a cool opportunity, and it would be it'd be one thing to name a team and just announce that, but the great thing is the NFLPA reached out to us over the summer and wanted to partner in some sort of way because they had an all-star game that they canceled after 12 years, and they wanted to have an avenue to connect with kind of their future constituency, so they wanted to align with us, and we started talking about this 75th celebration, and they wanted to be a part of that as well. So now we have the resources to bring all these 41 players back to Mobile for game week. So we're going to do that. It's going to really ratchet up the star power of the week. And really the most fun part of this whole thing for me, very selfishly, is that I've had a chance to connect with all these players. And a lot of them are my contemporaries, guys that are my age. A lot of them I scouted when I was in the NFL. So I know a lot of them. But the coolest one was Thurman Thomas, because Thurman's a little bit older than me. I was probably in grade school when Thurman was doing his thing for Buffalo. So when we spoke the other day, it was one of those moments for me. I had to pinch myself, like the 10-year-old version of myself would have been freaking out talking to Thurman Thomas. So so that was pretty cool. But yeah, the vote was great. We had all 32 GMs take part in the vote. We did a big fan vote online, so it's really been fun announcing it and seeing the schools and the different teams get on board and do some stuff with it. It's been a lot of fun.
Jim Nagy for the Reese's Senior Bowl, our guest. And Jim, I know that is probably a hard question to answer from your perspective on what stands out the most with a list of so many excellent players. And Jim, here locally, Titans fans, as things have trended in a negative direction this season, they're starting to look at the tackle class and left tackle and offensive line as we look ahead to this upcoming draft and the college prospects that are finishing up their seasons over these next couple of weeks. And Jim, let's just start there. How good of a tackle class is this as you look at the offensive linemen coming out for this year's draft?
Yeah, it's really good. It's the best it's been in a few years. So it's a good year to need one. I'll put it that way. I'm staring at the board right now, and we have 8 guys that we feel like will be, at solid starter to elite starting left tackles in the league. That's left tackles. We've got another column for right tackles, but so yeah, really deep class. It's good on the interior as well. Like if you need offensive line help, this is a good year for you.
Yeah, and that's where I wanted to go, Jim. Welcome back to the show, man. Glad you are great hostess with the Moses earlier this year and everything, man. We appreciate that, Jim. And I just have to go first, man, and ask this one. Cedric Van Pran, the center from Georgia. Big-time guy, man, and I saw he made your mid-season All-American team. Any more information on a guy like him?
Yeah, he's a starting center in the league, like slam dunk. He's played a ton of football there in the SEC. I mean, he's a bigger guy. He's 6'4", 315. So for a lot of centers are 6'1", 6'2"ish. This is a big man in there. He takes up space. He's good protecting those A gaps. He's got a really good brain on him. You guys might have interviewed him at SEC Media Days. So he's good on the mental part. He'll be able to step right in and handle that. So you're talking about, I don't use this might be the first time I've ever used the term plug and play. I don't love that term, but he is the guy that you're going to be able to draft and stick in there at the center spot. for a couple contracts and get 7-8 really good years out of them.
And I could easily go tackle too as far as the Titans is concerned, but I want to stick right there with Cedric Van Pran for this reasons right here, man. If given the opportunity, is a guy like him at center, because interior guys don't get the same prestige more times than not than the tackles do. Is he a first-round center type of guy that you say, I feel safe about drafting a guy like him if he's going to give me 10 years?
I get the question. I would say no to that. And I like Cedric a lot as a player. Nobody's taken centers up that high. I mean, it's very rare. We had Creed Humphrey in the Senior Bowl a couple years ago, and he went like 60th overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, were there 60 better football players in that draft? Not even close. Were there 10 better players than Creed Humphrey? I mean, the guy I think he was first-team All-Pro last year. So it's just one of those positions, and I don't understand why. I think it's a really valuable position, especially when you got a guy that can help out the quarterback mentally and take some stuff off his plate that way. I think it's a really important position. But most of those guys, the first ones usually start coming off in the middle of the second round. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if the Titans wanted to double down, they could go tackle in one. I don't know where they're picking, but they could go tackle early and then double back in the second or the third and get a guy like Van Pran that could start at center.
Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, joins us now on RK Dub. Jim, the other position I think the Titans are already kind of starting to look at, unfortunately, they have not had so much success drafting at cornerback. Now, I know Christian Fulton, he's had some growth this year, but if he gets re-signed, I don't know. Caleb Farley, obviously dealing with all the stuff he's dealt with. How deep is this corner class, or who do you feel like you see that sticks out?
It is a good corner class. I've heard good things about our guy Roger McCreary up there.
I know
he had
excellent.
a pick a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
I've heard he's doing. They just got to draft Senior Bowl corners, and they'll be doing all right. No, it's a good It is a good corner class. It really is, and there's there's a lot of guys like Roger in the sense that there's a lot of nickel-sized guys. Like if you needed a nickel, and I don't think you guys do because Roger can do that. Right. It's a really good year to need nickels. Outside, there is a good group of bigger corners in this class, but they're more developmental. They're not really ready to get on the field right away and play. So there's really, like that fourth, fifth round, I think you'll see a lot of bigger corners going off there. But a lot of the best football players are kind of like, in the 5'11" range, I'm just coming from the Seattle Seahawks where we liked our guys like 6'1", 6'2". That's kind of how I think of outside. That's how I think of outside corners still. But it is a good class. To be long-winded and answer your question, there's going to be some juniors, which we can now have in the Senior Bowl, that will really make this year's class, if they all come out, a really good class.
And that's what I was going to segue to, Jim. You guys are announced just recently that you are adding seniors or juniors to the Senior Bowl roster. How cool was that for you guys to be able to expand that way, and what does that do for this game?
It was huge. It was huge. The 32 teams have been pushing for this for a long, long time. And I think the league office was always a little resistant. I don't think they really wanted to upset the apple cart that is the free feeder system of college football. And again, I don't want to speak for anyone and why the decisions were made, but I mean, college football, there's a lot going on right now. Portal and NIL, I don't need to tell you guys everyone's quite aware of the chaotic nature of college football right now. So I think the bottom line is that in All-Star Invite, as much nobody promotes the Senior Bowl more, believes in the Senior Bowl more than me, but these guys aren't leaving college just to get a Senior Bowl invite. So I think that's where what it came down to. So it is a game changer for us. We've averaged about 40 of the top 100 players over the last 3 or 4 years, like 40, 41. And then the rest of those guys are like, we probably have about 5 seniors a year that tell us no and decline the invite. And then, so the other 55 guys in the top 100 are all juniors. And now will we get all of those guys? No, there's probably, 15, 20 guys that think they're lock top half of the first round and they want to sit it out. But I still think we're going to get 30 or 40 more juniors in the top 100 here. And that's just going to ratchet up the star power more than it's been. So it's something we're really excited about.
Jim Nagy, our guest for the Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim, when you look at this Tennessee roster, a number of intriguing prospects for them, not named Joe Milton, obviously his arm strength and talent is well documented, but specifically in the offensive line. When you talk about guys like Javontes Spraggins and Cooper Mays, you got John Campbell, the big tackle. Are those the guys that catch your eye first when you look at Vols prospects specifically? Or if not, who else do you feel like has an intriguing and promising future at the next level?
Well, I would throw Gerald Mincy in there too.
Sure.
He's a guy the NFL is going to look at as well. So it'll be interesting to see what NIL does to that offensive line. I think they're going to be able to get some of those guys back, and that's something that's made this job more difficult over the last couple of years. It's really more of a fluid invite process. We used to really feel good about our roster being locked up around December 10th, and now with NIL, I mean, we get guys accept invites, and then coaches will gather up with their collectives after the season and get money to bring these guys back. So, the one guy we were really excited about to get down here to Mobile this year was Brew McCoy. Before that injury, he was a guy we would have invited and loved to have had down here. So, but yeah, I think you start with that offensive line, and then like Tyler Barron on the defensive line is a guy that a lot of teams are interested in. But yeah, you brought up Joe Milton's name. I mean, I think you start with him.
How much of a setup is the Senior Bowl to what the Combine provides also? Coaches tell you, like, yes, I love the on-field because anybody can look good, running a 40 or catching the ball or not having a defender in front of them, in a pass rush.
Yeah, Ramon, I mean, again, I'm in a little bit of a biased chair right now, but I say this going back to my time in the NFL. I just look back at the mistakes I made personally and the mistakes the teams I worked for made, and it was a lot of the times we put too much stock into what happened at the Combine and didn't focus on actual football. And to me, that's my selling point to these guys. I mean, not all these guys. Like, there's a junior wide receiver right now I'm talking to some agents about, and they don't think he's going to run well. And I'm like, well, send him to the Senior Bowl. Let him do what he does really well, and that's play football. And then if he's not going to run a really fast 40 time, I mean, that's on you guys to figure out however you want to handle I don't think you need to run a 40 these days. I think you put it on the teams and make them double down on what they saw on the tape. That's what I would do if I were an agent. But yeah, the football part's really important. And I think, another selling point for us with these players is you come to Mobile, you make these relationships now, you get a lot of the psychological testing out of the way, you get a lot of the interviews out of the way. It really just clears your plate for the Combine. So if you are going to go there and do all your testing, well, then you can really just focus on the testing. So we knock a lot of that stuff out of the way here in Mobile, and I think the players like it because I've talked to the guys that do go to the Combine after our event, and they were like, man, compared to the guys that didn't go to the Senior Bowl, like I had nothing to do up there, so it was great. So yeah, certainly the football aspect, real football, for us is a selling point.